Shit We've Read is a proud member of Bilo Network, a network of geeky podcasts.
Please visit shitwe'veread.com to support the show.
Now, let's talk about some books.
Hey everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Shit We've Read Pride Month edition. Happy Pride, everybody out there. For those who celebrate and for those who don't, I feel really sorry for you. And also happy Juneteenth at the time of this recording. We decided to do this on this day. I don't know why. Probably Rico's idea. I'm just going to
We are 30 seconds into the recording and you're throwing me under the bus. Awesome. Fantastic.
Speaking of, I'm here with my co-host, Jason Rico. Hi, Rico.
Hello. Happy Pride Month to everybody and to all the homophobes. I wish you all had a very uncomfortable month.
Ooh, I love that. Yes. And on that note, EmmaSkies is here. No.
What note? Please explain what note that's on.
I just have to be fair.
I would like the record to show I'm not homophobic. I have a stack of 45 sapphic books behind me because I just did a rec video.
I'm dying. I was so mean to Rico. I really had to bounce back and do it to you too, Emma, but that might have been uncalled for.
Oh my God.
Oh, this is why I don't host episodes as much, you guys. I cannot be trusted. I have no filter. But we are all here today for Pride Month, not to make fun of each other, but really to celebrate Pride and all of the gay literature, hopefully, that we've all been reading. Emma, we can start with you because you recently just shared your sapphic book recommendations. Tell us a little bit about that. What have you been reading?
By the time this episode comes out, the videos will be up. Hopefully. I haven't put them up yet. This is awkward because the last book that I read was straight and my current book is also straight.
Never mind, I take it back. Emma is homophobic.
Wow, we're doing great. We're doing fantastic.
It's not my fault that Allie Hazelwood put a book out last week. All right.
Emma lied, everybody.
Wait, oh my God, I can't remember any book I've ever read in my entire life now. Fuck. Shit. Go to Rico. I have to pull up my spreadsheet.
Okay.
I think I broke Emma. What have I done?
So we're talking about some of the other shit we were reading. I just recently finished reading the Monk and Robot books by Becky Chambers, which are fantastic. And Becky Chambers is easily one of my favorite authors. Like, those books are super cute, super short, easy to get through. You can get through them both in a day, really.
I thought you gave Psalm 5 stars, right?
I gave them both 4.5.
Okay.
I gave them both 4.5. Yes.
That's acceptable. I'll allow it.
Yeah. And I think that really only had to do because like what they're saying is amazing. I just wasn't really like in a place where like it spoke to me directly, if that makes sense. Right. Like, and if you've read the books, I think you totally understand. And so like I recognize that these are amazing. There's nothing wrong with them whatsoever. It just didn't quite, that little bit that like resonates with you wasn't quite there. But still amazing books. Super cute. Can't recommend them enough.
Have you read To Be Taught If Fortunate?
Yes, I love that one.
Okay,
that one was a 5-star for me.
I was like, that sounds like it'd be right up your alley. I just read that one. I read that one, and then because I read it on a plane, and if anybody has read the book, this will make sense. It was really jarring because I got off the plane, turned on my little news podcast, and they announced that NASA was teaming up with Elon Musk and Jeff Bezos. And I was like, of all the news to get when I just finished this book, wonderful, great, we're all fucking doomed. I hate it here. If anybody's read To Be Taught If Fortunate, you will understand why that was a little bit sad and a little bit of a kick in the teeth of like, oh yeah, this wasn't real.
Yeah.
Now I want to read the book so I can know.
It's good, and it's like 120 pages. It's really short.
Oh, that's nice. That's like a little afternoon read. That sounds great.
All right,
one-sitting situation.
Yeah.
I pulled up my spreadsheet because I forgot every book I've ever read. I read The Bone Shard War, so I finished up the Bone Shard, the Drowning Empire series by Andrea Stewart. We went to the event for that, Rico. And there's a sapphic couple in that. Highly recommend that series, by the way. I loved that whole series. It was so good. The last book is a little bit, I don't want to use the word disappointing, but it was an interesting last book. The last book was a little bit messy. And then I read Ashton Parker Doesn't Fail because I loved Delilah Green Doesn't Care, which is another sapphic book. And then I read Little Thieves and Painted Devils. I can't believe I was like trying to recall what I've read, and it was like my biggest thing that I've been looking forward to all year, which was Little Thieves and Painted Devils, which has really fantastic demisexual rep. And I have not said anything about Painted Devils yet because I'm in that mode of like, I'm just processing how I feel about this thing. Because I was waiting so long for it and it was so good. And I'm just in that mode of like still basking in it. I'm like, I haven't written a review yet. I haven't even put up a rating yet. But Little Thieves is one of my favorite books of all time. Rereading it was an absolute fucking joy. I was so, so happy. Painted Devils, I was really worried for it because the author keeps apologizing to people for the ending. Everything I hear her say, she's like, oh, sorry about that. Sorry about that. There's a third book coming. I'm like, what the fuck do you mean, sorry? What am I going into?
I didn't know that, Emma.
Now. Oh, well,
I
now.
didn't know that.
Now.
And I'm in the middle of reading it, so thank you for making me scared. Now I'm terrified.
The only thing
I was liking the book.
She keeps saying it, and like I was like, I don't understand. What do you mean? Every time I would see her online, she's like, "Yep, sorry about that." I'm like, "What the fuck do you mean? Stop saying that."
Well, now I have an entire book to worry about that.
Wow.
So thank you. I'm on
How
like
far in
chapter
are you?
15.
Oh, it's good, right?
It is really good.
It's really good.
I really enjoyed it. So that's the one I'm like currently reading besides this book. I was listening to the audiobook at night. So I was listening to that. I just finished The 7 Husbands of Evelyn Hugo.
Oh, how was that?
Mixed thoughts on that. But the book itself was really good. Just the main protagonist is half Cuban and bisexual.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, but Taylor Jenkins Reid is
straight white woman.
Straight white woman. So I was like, interesting. Think we could have been a little bit more nuanced, but
what's weird about that too is that specifically after Evelyn Hugo, I believe she went on record on an interview saying that she probably shouldn't have told the story of a Latina woman and would not do so again. And then her latest book, Carrie Soto is Back, is about a Latina woman.
Yep. Yeah.
And everybody went, wait a minute. Did we not have this conversation already?
Oh, interesting. Yeah. So I wanted to read it for myself. And yeah, it's definitely like a one-dimensional take on that identity, which is really interesting. The sexuality part is explored in more nuance, but the racial identity barely talked about at all, which was very interesting. But I mean, overall, it was a good book. Like, I see why people have loved it. But I also read Fiancé Farce, which was so much fun.
How was that? Yeah?
Yeah. I liked it. It's very cheesy. That's
what I've heard.
How this could not even be real, but it was just a fun time. And so, you know what? If you like a good little silly romance, and it's very gay, it's great. I think they're both bisexual, but like they're both women and like who get together. We also read Threads That Bind, which is our latest author interview for Shit We've Read, if anyone has not listened to the episode yet, which was like a surprise queer book, which was great. Like lots of like just automatic like gayness is not a problem. It is not a conflict.
So it's a queer normative world.
Queer normative world where that is just like, yeah, trans, bisexual, queer, everyone just exists. And it was great. And Kika has some really good things to say in our interview about like why that was really important. So I, one, recommend the book to everybody to read, and then two, to listen to the episode if you want to learn more about the world. But it was really fun.
It was a really good book. Good conversation.
Yeah, it's a YA novel, right? If I'm not mistaken.
Yes.
Yeah. Surprisingly, like it at times, like it felt like YA, but I think it really stands on its own in terms of like the story and the issues that are kind of addressed within the book and all the different pieces that kind of come together. Yeah. And then this book, Winter's Orbit. So I feel like I've been reading a lot this month, but I also feel like I rushed all of my books. Like they were just really fast. So they're all really good.
I just did a one sitting read. Speaking of reading books really fast, I just did a one sitting read for the new Ali Hazelwood book, Love Theoretically. First of all, so fucking good. So good. If you liked The Love Hypothesis, you will love Theoretically. But a friend of mine and I, we buddy read them together. We're 3 for 3 on Ali Hazelwood books. That's like our tradition now, is like we'll pick a day the weekend that it comes out, and we're like this story. And she lives in Wisconsin, so we're 2,000 miles apart. And like we pick a time, we start it, and we read through the entire thing, texting each other the whole time. And it was so fucking good. Oh my god.
That's so cute.
It was so sweet. It's like the highlight of my year. Like it's just so much fun. If you guys have not done buddy reads before, anybody listening, I highly recommend it. It is just the most fun because what we'll do is, because you're always reading at like a slightly different pace, we'll use voice notes. So like we send the page number. So I'll say like 132 and then voice note that part. So when she gets to page 132, she can just open the voice note and then we can reply to each other that way and like not worry about like who's reading
spoilers and stuff.
Yeah. Because we tend to keep like we're at like 15, 20 pages, ahead or behind each other. So if you ever want a buddy read, highly recommend. So much fun.
That's a cute idea. I like that. I know people who like read books together, write and talk, but I like that. That makes it a little bit more, it's like an asynchronous study session, or I guess book club. I like it. That's fun.
That's fun.
Yeah. All right. Well, should we talk a little bit more about our book, Winter's Orbit by Everina Maxwell?
Yes, please.
Yeah. Okay. So this is an LGBTQIA plus space opera romance. It was published February 2nd, 2021. And Emma's going to read us the synopsis because Emma has already read the book now twice, a second time for this podcast.
This was my second time.
Yeah. Thank you for your dedication to this book.
I'm very happy to do it.
And you're going to read us a special synopsis.
Apparently. This isn't...
Apparently.
Well, we were talking over the show about like who's going to read the synopsis, and I was looking at the one, we have like notes for anybody listening. We have a page of notes, and the synopsis from Goodreads is on our notes, and it's wildly different to the synopsis that's actually on my physical book. So I'm going to read the one that's on my physical book because I like it.
Going off script. Love it.
Going off script. So, Winter's Orbit by Everina Maxwell. Prince Kiem, a famously disappointing minor royal and the Emperor's least favorite grandchild, has been called upon to be useful for once. He's been commanded to fulfill an obligation of marriage to the representative of the Empire's newest and most rebellious vassal planet. His future husband, Count Jainan, is a widower and a murder suspect. Neither wants to be wed, but with a conspiracy unfolding around them and the fate of the Empire at stake, they will have to navigate the thorns and barbs of court intrigue, the machinations of war, and the long shadows of Jainan's past, and they'll have to do it together. So begins a legendary love story amid the stars. Which is crazy different from the Goodreads synopsis.
Oh, yeah.
Which is much, much heavier on, like, the murder mystery intrigue.
Which I feel like both are true. My first impression of this book, non-spoiler edition, was, it was definitely more murder mystery than I thought it was going to be. Just for sci-fi, I don't know. I don't feel like they often cross over in my experience, but I also do not like sci-fi a lot, so I don't read a lot of it. But yeah, I definitely felt like the murder mystery was pretty heavy. Less on the romance. There's some romance, but like this, I expected more. The way it kind of started at the beginning with the marriage, and then you really don't get anything romantic or steamy until like, I think it was like about 60% of the way in the book.
Yes, it depends on kind of how you define that, but yes, the overt romantic like coming together is at about, I know what point you're talking about. Yeah, that point about halfway, 60% through the book.
I did enjoy the romance. It's a very slow burn romance. I really did enjoy that. I really loved Kiem and Jainan. Those two are innocent little babies that need to be protected at all costs. I love them both so much.
I know.
But all in all, I don't think this book was for me. It was too political for me, and I've said in the past I don't really like.
Oh my God,
that was going to be your take.
Who doesn't love court politics?
Me,
Rico. Oh my God.
No, I don't. If there's a court, I'm out.
Oh my God.
Yeah. The slow burn romance was good, but I'm also not like inherently drawn to slow burn romances. Like some people just enjoy those. That's like their bread and butter. It's like not really my thing.
God. Don't ever read Mara Zapata.
Okay. I don't really care for the arranged marriage trope. It's not really a thing I care about.
The wrong language. You are hating everything I love.
I know, and I know this.
Slow burn romance, arranged marriage, political tropes. What is happening?
I know. I remember when I first heard about the book, it sounded great. I didn't really know like what it was about. Just like this synopsis. I guess I read the Goodreads synopsis, which was like, I don't know. But as I was reading this, it's like, I don't like this. I'm sure Emma loves this. I don't like this. I'm sure Emma loves this.
And she did.
Yeah. I think the one thing that should have been the saving grace, which is the space opera part of it, wasn't really explored enough for me. it wasn't really a space opera. Like
they don't really go off planet.
Right. Like this exact same story, except for maybe one piece of technology, could have been set just on a world with nations. There was nothing inherently like spacey about this book. And so it dropped the ball for me there. All that said, around the 75% mark, I did really start liking it. So the last quarter of the book, I did really enjoy.
I would like to let you know that given everything you just said, well, correct, you are. But given all of that, I think you will really, really like Ocean's Echo, the second book, a lot more. Ooh. I think you would probably enjoy it a lot more because for similar reasons, I enjoyed it less.
Okay, I had it on my. I didn't know Ocean's Echo wasn't a direct sequel, so I had it on my list of I'll read it right after this. And then when I realized it wasn't directly connected, it's like I didn't really like this. I'm not going to read the second one. So now I'm torn if I want to read the second one or not.
We'll get there. We'll talk about it at some point.
Okay.
We'll work Ocean's Echo into the conversation.
In the spoiler section, we need to talk about that.
Okay, so now my nemesis, Emma, how'd you feel about this book?
I fucking love this book so much.
Wait, you do? You do? You love this book? I would have never guessed.
So, I mean, you guys knew because you asked me to come on for a reread. So this is the second time that I've read it.
And you eagerly agreed. You were like, oh, hell yeah, I'll read that a second time and talk about it.
Take an excuse to read this book again. So I read this shortly after it first came out, which would have been 2021, I think. And I was in love with it immediately. It was a very easy 5-star for me. Reading it a second time, I think, over the years, your ratings kind of change. It's kind of the same way that I felt when I just reread the Shades of Magic series, where I'm like, I don't know that I could objectively look at this thing and like give it a different rating. So it remains a 5-star because I still fucking love it. I love the romance. I love the characters. I like the world. To your credit, Jason, you're right. Like, there's not a lot like actual sci-fi going on other than like the flying car, quote unquote.
Yeah.
There's really not a lot else. But I love court intrigue. I love court politics. I love the arranged marriage. The arranged marriage trope gets me every fucking time. And like these two, their dynamic of like trying to, it's almost like you could call it miscommunication, but in the best possible way of like just constantly misunderstanding each other, but for all the right reasons. I like them both so much. Oh my God. I have the best feelings about them. They make me so happy. I want to hug both of them. I remember when the thing that originally got me to read this book was, I don't know why I remember this to this day, is Tor Books was promoting it like on their social media, and they did like a whole carousel of like different tropes and things that were in the book, and it was like selling you Winter's Orbit based on tropes, and so like all the tropey things. But one of the things I remember is that they're like, it's like we have one of each. We have looks like a cinnamon roll but will kill you, and looks like they will kill you but is a cinnamon roll. And I was like, I feel like you two both kind of swap those interchangeably throughout the book, and they're just, I love them so much. And it makes me sad, and it makes me happy, and oh my God, it's a good book, everybody. That was a lot of words to say. I really like this book.
It is a good book. I will agree with you there. Like the things that I didn't enjoy, it wasn't me saying those are bad. It's
just
those
not
are
up
things
your alley.
It's like they don't really resonate with me as much as they do with you. But like I said, I love the two main characters, like Kiem and Jainan. Both of them individually, their dynamic, their relationship, that romance that developed. I love them both incredibly much. But it just wasn't my cup of tea overall. But it's still a really good book. And so if the things I am saying are things that you like, then you probably will enjoy this book. And actually, funnily enough, one of my my Instagram book reader friends, I posted about this book recently, and she replied, she's like, ooh, how is it? And I told her exactly the same thing I told you guys. I was like, these are the things I don't really like, blah, blah, blah. And she's like, those are the things I like. I'm going to read it.
Yes.
It's like perfect. Like, there you go. Like, she knows that this is a thing for her, and I love that for her. So
I appreciate, Rico, that you can always be like, well, I said this is not a book for me. It does not mean it's a bad book, because I think that's really important, especially with book reviews. Because I kind of felt the same way, where I was like, there were things that worked for me and things that didn't, but it's not that it was a bad book. It just wasn't necessarily things that I enjoyed about books in general. Like, I'm like, this isn't something I'd gravitate towards normally. So I like that I tried it, and I like that, like I knew Emma liked it and that people in general liked the book. So I was like, I'm glad that I tried it. It wasn't 100% for me. I think I liked it more than you, but definitely not as much as Emma.
Impossible.
That's
a
okay.
gamut of opinions here.
Laura, I don't know about you, but I am not ready for this heat.
Me neither. It's only May and we're already hitting over 90 degrees here in Sacramento.
And it's only going to get hotter, which means it's more important than ever to make sure you stay hydrated.
Yeah, but sometimes plain old water just doesn't cut it.
What do you mean?
Well, anytime I take my food truck out to an event, I am constantly having to refill my water bottle, and I feel like I can never drink enough. And don't get me started on all of the attendees. After hours of dancing and partying in those hot temperatures, the first thing customers ask when they come up to the truck is if we have any drinks.
Well, that's where Liquid IV comes in. With festival season upon us, planning for faster, efficient hydration is essential, and Liquid IV has you and all our listeners covered while you get ready before the festival, power through your favorite act, and recover after the weekend.
Ooh, tell us more.
Just one stick of Liquid IV and 16 ounces of water gets you 5 essential vitamins, 2 times faster hydration than water alone, with 3 times the electrolytes of traditional sports drinks.
Wait, really?
Oh yeah, I've been using Liquid IV for years and I love it. I have a box of the passion fruit flavors sitting on the top of my fridge so I can easily add it to my water bottle whenever I feel run down, before I head out on a hike to a secluded area to read a book, or just whenever I'm thirsty and want something with flavor. Laura, you know how you always tell me my skin looks so hydrated and refreshed? That's probably thanks to Liquid IV.
I've literally never told you that.
Yeah, that's because you're a horrible friend. While I, on the other hand, am an amazing friend for telling you about Liquid IV. But if I haven't convinced you already, here's the best part. Liquid IV is more than just a hydration brand and believes that equitable access to clean and abundant water is the foundation of a healthier world. To that end, Liquid IV partners with leading organizations for innovative solutions to help communities protect both their water and their futures. To date, Liquid IV has donated over 39 million servings in 50 plus countries around the world.
Wow, that is so cool, and definitely something to support.
So, Laura, what do you say? Are you ready to experience the Liquid IV difference for yourself?
I am, and everyone listening can too. Right now, you can get 20% off when you go to liquidiv.com and use code SWRPOD at checkout. Again, that's 20% off anything you order when you shop Better Hydration using promo code SWRPOD at liquidiv.com.
Hey, book lovers. Natalie here from the Tipsy Nerds Book Club podcast, your home for the best of science fiction and fantasy with a twist. Whether you prefer dragons or aliens, your cocktail shaken or stirred, co-host Robin Dabney and I have you covered. Past guests have included authors like New York Times bestsellers Hugh Howey and Dorinda Jones. And the nerds are excited to open our 5th season with best-selling authors Tracy Wolff and Nina Croft, co-authors of the upcoming high-concept sci-fi romance book, Starbringer. Join the conversation. We're 2 tipsy nerds and 1 great story. Available wherever you get your podcasts.
So I'm curious as we get into like the spoiler section now, what we're going to talk about specifically. But I think before that, at least I didn't notice a content warning. And I feel like maybe some of our listeners might appreciate just a wee bit content warning about like relationship abuse. If that is something that triggers you, it is light in this book, but it is a storyline that comes up for our characters. Not between the 2 of them. I feel like that should be very clear. Yes. They are not the story of abuse. We are talking about past tense abuse, some reliving of it, memories, and definitely affects the relationship dynamic. But for folks who are sensitive to that, please be aware, because that kind of caught me off guard. I was like, usually that's a trigger warning.
Yeah.
You know, it's definitely light physical abuse. It was mostly emotional abuse. And so like, it wasn't quite triggering, but I was caught off guard and I was kind of surprised by that. So I feel like it merits a warning. But let's get into these spoilers. So if you're listening now, we're going to really hear what Rico feels about the book.
Oh, Lord.
And we're going to really understand why Emma loves this book so much. So we are definitely not the people to listen to if you're like, oh, they're going to be kind of vague in their spoiler section. They're not going to talk about specifics. We will absolutely talk specifics. So turn this off until you read the book from this point on. But let's get into it.
Okay.
Okay, who wants to start?
Do not ask me anything about the first 75% of this book, because I don't remember shit. Like, I don't. If it wasn't about Kiem and Jainan, I didn't care about the court stuff.
When you say that the first 75 or the 75% mark is when you got into it, like what was your trigger?
Was that?
What was your catalyst?
That I think that's when Jainan was arrested, I believe.
Okay. All right. So when
around there, I forgot exactly where, but it was around there. Once the mystery
like, was he arrested?
Oh my goodness.
No. Well, I'm like, I don't want to give too much away, even though we said spoilers.
You just said spoilers.
Spoilers.
I know, but I still feel really bad. Okay. Like the point where he was taken by the military.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. See, arrested implies that there was like a process there, and I just felt like, they kidnapped him. Like I would have said kidnapped. Okay, it's like semantics, Rico.
Oh my goodness!
That really bothered me about that situation. Was they were like, he's under military law now, and I was like,
no, he's not.
Bullshit. Yeah, I was like, he didn't do anything. Like there was no process. They're planting evidence. Anyways, continue, Rico. So at the point where you were like, I'm into this.
I think because up until that point, I didn't like the pacing. I felt like this book could have been like 100 pages shorter for me.
I agree.
So like that first 75 felt like a really long 75%. And then once we got to the point where like, all right, he's taken into custody or however the fuck you want me to say it, Bella.
Kidnapped.
And then, and then Kiem is, unaware. And then finally they hatch a plan to go rescue him. And they, all that plays out at the end. Then I felt like, all right, we're getting there now. We're finally doing some stuff. It's exciting. I want to see how this plays out. I want to see what the resolution is.
I feel like I would have started that at like the halfway mark when they go to the other base to get more information. Because like at that point, it feels like we're actively participating in this investigation and looking for things.
Mm-hmm.
And then, of course, we get the huddle for warmth. There's only one tent scene. Like, who doesn't love that?
Honestly,
I did like
that's one of my favorite tropes. That was I was like waiting for it. I was like, why are you sleeping outside? There's only one tent.
Speaking of there's only one tent, there's only one bed. There is nothing worse in the world than thinking you're getting a there's only one bed trope, and then somebody goes, I'm going to go sleep on the couch.
Oh, I know. Okay.
Get in bed.
Let's talk about it. Okay. So since you brought it up, Emma, I think that was the thing that really like bothered me was like the red herrings, if you will, of romance here. The bait and switch of the like forced marriage wedding night did not go according to plan. Then the one bed trope did not go according to plan. And then we just have like all of this slow burn, like miscommunication, which I did appreciate because that felt really authentic to the fact that they were from two very different cultures. Yeah. And that is explored in the book.
Sure.
So I was like, that actually they have very different communication styles, not just like personality wise, but of like their culture, the way that like gender is communicated and the way that like family roles are handled and like the whole clan responsibilities that Theans have for each other. Like all of that, I was like, okay, I can see how this plays out in their romance. Like they're not reading each other right. And Kiem just like doesn't have that experience. Sure. But one bed, you give me a one bed, you give me like the forced marriage wedding night, and all of it just like fell so flat, and I was so bummed. And then nothing happens until like halfway through the book.
So I actually loved all that though, because as we talk in our After Dark episodes, is like consent is my big thing in smutty books, but that obviously goes into all kinds of romance. And it was so much more important to me and so much of a deeper connection to me to realize that Kiem respected him and respected his space, and even like he's reading all the wrong signals, but like that was so much more of like, and it made the eventual getting together so much sweeter because they were crossing signals wrong the entire time.
Yeah, no, I agree.
Yeah, no, I agree.
But it is frustrating to read where you're like, what the fuck?
I was like, I thought Emma liked this book. I thought Emma liked this book, which means
it's not frustrating if you don't care about the tropes.
The romance is not happening yet. Rico's like, thank God it wasn't a one bed trope.
Yeah.
Okay, fuck you, Rico. You're the reason that
there is another book in particular that I think about every time I think about the one bed trope, because the guy literally sleeps on the floor for like half the book, like on the floor, and I'm like, I hate you. I love you, but I hate you.
What book is this?
For the Wolf by Hannah Witten. Okay. Phenomenal book. Love it. But that man sleeps on the floor for their one bed trope.
No.
It's like, it was so respectful, but rude for me waiting. Sorry, Rika, what were you going to say?
I love that Kiem's like only genuine concern was that Jainan was in mourning. Like, I thought that was so damn sweet.
I thought that was sweet.
And that's when I was like, oh, okay, I really like Kiem. Because up until that point, I mean, he's like a total himbo. He's stupid. He's just like the black sheep of the family.
Yeah, he's a himbo.
And then this is like the first spark where we see like, oh, there's more to him. He actually is capable of caring and being sensitive and stuff. And like, I'm on board with Kiem. And so yes, that made the one bed thing not happen. And I'm sorry for your loss, but we got there in the end.
It's okay. We got a one sleeping bag, so it's fine.
And that was honestly, for the Twilight fans out there, was real nice. I was like, yeah. What Jacob and Bella never got.
Oh my God.
You didn't think I'd bring that up, did you?
Always goes back to Twilight.
I like to keep you on your toes.
I went to Wild as the Witch, where like half the book is that there's only one tent trope.
No, my yardstick is absolutely Twilight, as problematic as that may be.
Oh my God, I need you to read Love Theoretically. The book is 8% Twilight references.
All right, probably will then. That helps. We'll talk about that more offline, but because apparently that's not what this podcast is about today. But yeah, so yeah, I definitely was frustrated by that, but I don't know. I really liked the characters overall. I think that's where the strength in this book really was their relationship. I really liked Jainan's just kind of overall, like, I don't know, he was so committed to duty, but was still falling in love. I don't know. It just played out really sweet in the book. Just like how he slowly kind of gained back his trust. Like that felt really authentic too. After everything he'd been through with his previous partner. I don't know. That was just really sweet.
This was an interesting one to read for the second time because I feel like I remember reading this for the first time, and I'm wondering like how immediately obvious it was to you guys that he had been abused in his previous relationship, because like
right away.
Part of it is like kind of you're seeing it from Kiem's side where he's like, this guy was married to my cousin, he died a month ago, he's clearly deep in mourning, and like you kind of very quickly realize that's not the case, and like something was going on there. And you kind of slowly get exposed to more and more what it was. And like going back and reading this, knowing the extent of everything that had happened in their relationship just made it so much sadder.
What really was kind of frustrating to me, and they address it, is that Kiem could not tell. Like Kiem was just misreading all the signals. And I was like, dude, like I know that you've grown up in this little ivory tower, like quite literally, but you can tell this is not love. That is not how you talk about love. And I just really felt for like, I don't know, his struggle when he found out, and he was like, I feel like the biggest idiot in the world that I couldn't see it. And that's how much he loved him. But it was also really, really fucking sad that it took like, I don't know what, like almost 80% of the book for that to, I think around
for it to like really click. Because even before, like he eventually realizes, he kind of slowly starts to realize there were problems in the relationship, and like maybe they weren't as in love,
not happy,
or they weren't super happy. But it takes a long time for him to realize the extent of what was being done to Jainan. And it really does kind of take until he's literally going through Jainan's memories.
The memories,
and seeing what was happening to him.
And seeing they run into that video clip in his messages, or Tam's messages, his previous partner. And that's when he's like, oh my God, like I kind of saw it, but I didn't know that it included like physical abuse, because that's the scene that he sees. He's like, I could tell there was like some like displeasure, right? Like he didn't love Tam, but it was so sad. And then the memories. Yeah. That was really sad.
Those hit me harder than I thought. I mean, I knew there was emotional abuse, or at the very least emotional neglect, perhaps, if you want to.
I think emotional abuse is very
but I'm saying if like you don't pick up on that, like at the very least there's anyhow, but the actual physical abuse that we replay at that part, it was like, I wasn't like really ready to like revisit that with him. I felt really bad for him.
Well, and then just how resigned he is to everything.
Yeah.
Where he's like, yep, this is just how life is here. This is just what I have to do. I'm not allowed to talk to my family. I'm not allowed to talk to people from my planet. I am sequestered with this person, and I'm constantly watching for his moods. And like, if you ever dealt with people like that, like where you don't even have to watch their mood go down. You just watch something happen and you're like, and that has ruined the next week because this is suddenly going to be a problem. And you're like constantly trying to balance the act. It's like, I mean, like you said, it's really hard to watch somebody like watch his thought process through that. Oh,
those were the hardest moments, I think, for me to read was Jainan, like reading his thought process around, and then also when he kind of projects it onto Kiem.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, okay, now Kiem's gonna be mad at me because I did that, because that's how Tam would react. And it was just like knife to the heart of like, because we are seeing into Kiem's brain at times because it switches between their two perspectives. And you're just like, Kiem is obviously not Tam. Like, he's a very different person. I don't think he could get mad at a fly unless that fly was hurting somebody he loved. Like, even the press he handles really well and like never really gets mad at them. Like, he's always like, I understand that's their job. Mm-hmm. But like, I wasn't happy with that story. How can I fix it? And so when Jainan was like, oh, Kiem's gonna hurt me. Like, he's mad. That means I need to just sit here and like either let it pass or take it, whatever that is. And you're just like, oh, that hurts. That was so fucking sad. It was hard to read. I think that's also what made the first like half of the book really hard for me, was like, okay, where's the romance?
Yeah.
Where's the friendship? Like, we're halfway through the book and that made it very real. I think that's what made the writing really good, was we didn't all of a sudden, after like 3 days together, they're like besties and all of his, healing has occurred. So that was very realistic, but it was also very hard to read. Very, very good.
Well, it's that miscommunication that you're talking about, because it's on both sides. Because on Kiem's side, you've got this idea of him not recognizing the signs of their relationship. And on Jainan's side, you've got him not recognizing the things that Kiem is doing for him. Like, even to the point, like, when Kiem gets so mad finding out that Jainan hasn't been able to contact his family and, like, throws his entire purpose in life becomes, how do I fix the security clearance issue? I'm like, to the point of conning people into getting names he shouldn't have and into offices he shouldn't be in and forcing them to give it back to him. And he still doesn't catch on that, like, he's doing this for Jainan. And because, like, it doesn't occur to him that anybody would do that for him. Like, oh my God.
Yeah.
I love him so much.
Like, he thinks Kiem is mad at him for how he's like, I'm so sorry to be an inconvenience. And he's like, literally, you're not the problem. Like, the amount of times that Kiem has to tell Jainan that, like, you are not the problem. This is not your fault. And you are not an inconvenience. Like, I am mad for you. You are allowed to be mad. And Jainan's like, but I love being here. I just like, oh, the brainwashing that Tam did to him. I hate Tam. And when we get like a ghost Tam later on, when they're being tortured and like simulation, and ghost Tam appears and is like, I'm not really dead. And you're just like, what?
Did that fake you out at all? Did you actually think for a second that he was alive?
Oh my God, I did.
No.
I did think he was alive. Because, okay, Rico, fine. But I was like, this book has had a lot of like red herrings and things that I wouldn't have expected. So like, fuck, I guess he's alive now. But it was kind of like everyone really pretended like he was dead then. Like, I was kind of like, that doesn't make a lot of sense, but I guess that's happening.
Like, we had 7 funerals for you.
Exactly. I was like, and his the guy, Aaron, who like takes his job and is like, turns out to be behind everything, was like, oh yeah, I killed him, blah, blah, blah. He wasn't like, and he's secretly alive at any point. Like, this guy hated him. So I was like, if he's secretly alive, like, he would not be on this spaceship right now. Like, he'd be hiding on like another planet. Like, this doesn't make a lot of sense, but I guess it's happening.
Like,
so
in the
I was
moment,
kind of waiting.
it's because she fakes you out with him waking up. And you're like, I watched you wake up. Obviously, he's awake. And then it does the double fake out, like, oh, you thought you were awake, but you weren't. Which is like
good.
One of my least favorite tropes. But for whatever reason, it worked here. I don't fucking know.
It did work. I didn't like it, but it worked. But yeah.
You know what, Justin? I was like, I don't know why this came to me in the moment. I was trying to remember at the time that I read, I was like, what did I just see that fucking did this? Don't ask me why. I'm watching Shadowhunters. And Shadowhunters just did that. And I remember thinking at the time, because I think they did it like 2 wake ups, and I was like, "What the fuck is this Inception? Like, how many layers of waking up are we gonna have to go through here?" Because they do it twice in a row, and I was like, "I can't take this. Once you're awake, you're awake. Leave me alone."
I agree. I can't take the fake out.
But it did, like you said, it did make for like a nice kind of moment of closure where like he gets to stand up to Tam, which was good for him, probably in the long run. They're both such big sweet.
I really wanted that to be real for him. I was like, I don't want Tam to be alive, but I love that you stood up and like, you know, got him to be scared of you. So, yeah. Rico, what else did you like or not like that you really want to talk about? Because I'm so curious. I don't know. I feel like it's not often that you're like, this book was not for me. Like, this book really hit all of your dislikes.
They're not even dislikes.
Tropes. No, like tropes that you dislike. Not that the book was a dislike, but because I read it and the minute politics was like, I don't know, the main topic of a chapter, I was like, oh, Rico's gonna hate this book.
Oh no, I don't think I knew that you don't like politics.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't really know why, and it's not always. I mean, there's some books that I've read that are political in nature, and
I think that this was like really political. I was pretty surprised because, again, like I thought there'd be some romance. There is like murder mystery, so I didn't think that like politics would really play into it. Now, don't know why it should have. Obviously, murder, but it was really heavy on the politics. Like you learn a lot about the two planets and the treaty, and like why they're getting married. Even though it still felt very forced, but like you get it. You're like, okay, the fate of their little planetary system, galaxy? Planetary system? I don't know. I'm not science.
I'm not science.
I don't know.
You heard it here first, folks. Bella is not, in fact, science.
I love that that's the thing that kills Rico. People can't see, but you're dying. Oh God, I finally did it. Guys. This isn't what I would have put my money on.
Apparently,
solar system?
Apparently the type of humor I really like are phrases that are almost correct, but not quite. And if anybody's a Critical Role fan, there is one that always gets me. It's in Campaign 2. It's Caduceus. He gets stuck somewhere and he says, "Help, it's again." And that's what he says. And I remember fucking dying
when he says that mean?
Because I think he got stuck.
Like it's happening again?
Yeah, I think he got stuck previously and then he got stuck again. He's like, "Help, it's again." And I fucking started dying because like I know what he's trying to say and it's not quite right. And apparently that's my humor. I like that. So help, it's again. I'm not science.
You like? Question mark?
What's that trope called? Because that's what I need in my books.
I don't know. I'd say Bella's brain is glitching, but I don't think that's a trope for everybody. Just me. What was I even talking about?
I don't remember.
Politics.
I'm
sorry. It's okay. In their solar system, I figured it out. I got there.
Are they a solar system though? Because I don't think they're all orbiting the same sun.
Well, they mentioned like their planets are all.
Oh, maybe they are.
They're a galactic empire.
Sure.
I mean, they don't have to be in the whatever.
This feels like a good segue into the sci-fi aspect. Since we were talking before the show about being a little bit confused about some things.
Yeah, as I said, I'm not science, so science fiction is sometimes really hard for me because I don't care as much about science, which is why I like fantasy. It's magic. You don't need to worry about the science behind it. So I think there were just things that I wasn't tracking because I don't care, and then they confused me later on.
That's so funny. I'm curious exactly what those were because I felt like there was not really science fiction in this. This wasn't a science fiction book.
It's little things that throw me off because I'm such a like process oriented person. Like I can think very abstractly. So the minute you don't give me that, I'm like, nothing else makes sense because I feel like I'm missing a piece. So like it was things like the resolution treaty. They sometimes would say, "Oh, resolution staff," and I was like, what's the difference between resolution and resolution treaty? And then their staff, are they staff who like their job is only to do the treaty? And then who's the auditor? Where did his power come from, or their power? And what is happening?
That's not sci-fi.
For the listeners. For the listeners before I get off that, the example we eventually came into is that they're basically the UN. It's an overarching body that a lot of planets are a part of separately. But like you said, like that's not necessarily a science fiction thing. Like it's just a political entity thing.
It is a political, which is when the minute you said UN, I was like, oh, I get it. But in my brain was like, okay, it must be science. Right. So there must be some like galactic multiverse person pulling the strings, and I don't know how it's all connected and what's happening. And I made it worse for myself. I recognize that I'm the problem. But I definitely think there were just like things about planets and how they're connected, because then you get into the high chain.
Right. We mentioned the high chain. Yeah.
Celestial beings, body. Like
I don't know where you're getting celestial beings from. I feel like I never saw the word celestial in this.
I'm going to find it because
you have a Kindle. Can you just search the word celestial?
Yeah, I can. I'm going to do it.
So, and what the thing is, so I've read.
No, there's no celestial.
Get out of here.
Continue, Emma.
Because they talk about galactic, but I was like celestial. So I've read both Winter's Orbit, which is the first one, Ocean's Echo, which is the second one, and I kept trying to think. I was like, is the High Chain where the second book takes place? Because the second book takes place on a completely different system through the link, and it's not even a little bit connected to Winter's Orbit. So a lot of times in these kind of like romance standalones, you'll get like, oh, there's a different story, but like they pop up, or like you'll get cameos or things like that. It's not even a little bit connected. You could read one without the other completely fine.
Okay, so this is where I got confused, and this is where I put in the word celestials. Okay, you're sitting here with 7 planets and a total population in the low billions. The High Chain owns a third of the known universe. Without assistive tech, the human brain cannot effectively comprehend. That's how I felt. Either their population or the distance between their borders. The resolution was drawn up by a balance of mega powers. Okay. We are a skeleton group overseeing a fragile truce. Do you really think the resolution is in itself half under the chain's influence?
So the High Chain is
a body.
Yeah, it's just it's another country. Not country. What's colonial empire.
But this is where I was like, are they celestials? Are they just
I don't
other,
know where
I don't know where you got celestials. That is all
even after you read that, I still
because of the mega powers. Because of the mega power,
like a corporation or a government.
Yeah, like USA was a mega power. Russia, USSR were mega powers. Like it's not celestial.
I just watched Guardians of the Galaxy, and I always think of the second one.
I was literally thinking Guardians of the Galaxy.
I am. Because I told you I don't like sci-fi, so there's only a few.
You were adding unnecessary sci-fi to this.
No, but if you don't have anything else to play off of, how else do I read mega powers? I'm like, the High Chain is not a fucking corporation. This is where I'm like, this was sci-fi trying to be politics, social science, and you didn't define your terms, and now I'm very confused because I don't know what it is, so I'm going to start putting things in there. I
don't think that's Everina Maxwell's fault. I don't think that's her fault.
I said I'm the problem. It's me, you guys. It's 100% me, but this is why I don't like sci-fi. This is why I was like,
you just have to read more of it. You just have to devour more sci-fi.
No, because then I just start putting things in that are like, I'm confusing myself. I need a glossary of terms. So I can know what we're talking
fantasy
about.
Fine. Fantasy works for you. There's made up things in there, and that makes sense for you.
Dude, I really don't know how to explain it. I truly don't. I don't know why
I would be really interested for you.
It's a mental block. It's a mental block. Okay. It's a bias.
I would be interested for you to read A Taste of Golden Iron, which is very, very similar to this book, except that it's bodyguard trope instead of arranged marriage, but it's fantasy and not sci-fi. So I wonder if that would just be like much more up your alley.
Yeah. I don't know what it is. I think for me, fantasy is just very familiar, so they often use the same terms.
Right.
So I can I know going into it, I'm like, the high court, it's like the royalties inner circle, whatever. And like all the lords and ladies and things. But like, I don't fucking know what the High Chain is and what's a mega power in this universe. I don't know. I'm just going to start throwing things in there. You got to define it for me. I like to define my terms.
Well, it's funny. It's funny that you say that, because one of the things that I think about with this book is that, and this is also something I've been thinking about with fantasy recently, is the idea or the difference between, when we're talking about fantasy, the difference between fantasy romance and romantic fantasy, or in this case, fantasy or sci-fi romance and romantic sci-fi. because I feel like I classify this as a sci-fi romance rather than a romantic sci-fi, where it's very heavily a romance book that takes place in a sci-fi setting.
Correct.
As opposed to like a big sci-fi book with like a little romance plot, you know?
Yeah.
And conversely, Ocean's Echo, I think, is romantic sci-fi, where it is a honkin' sci-fi book, but has a romantic plotline through it. Which again, now, Rico, I really just want you to read Ocean's Echo and tell me if I'm right that you end up liking it a lot more.
I'll read some of it.
Because I went into Ocean's Echo, the second book, not to get too far away from Winter's Orbit, but I went into it expecting another Winter's Orbit, and I ended up giving it like a 3.75 because it's not that at all. And I feel like that's not the book's fault. That's my expectation going in expecting Winter's Orbit and not getting that. Because then a couple people that I like really like tend to sync up really well with their opinions both gave it like high rated, like really big sci-fi 5 stars. And I was like, I think my expectation of going into this just wanting and expecting another Winter's Orbit is what like pulled me out of it. But it doesn't have, it has political intrigue only in that it's based in the military. They're like within the military. So it's a small military structure as opposed to like the empire structure that's in this. And I can't remember what else it was that you hated. It's not an arranged marriage. It's an arrangement, but they're not married.
Again, I want to clarify. I don't hate arranged marriages. I don't hate slow burn romance. That's not what I was trying to say whatsoever. All I was saying is certain people really gravitate towards this, right? Like if that's on the page, if you know you're getting that, you're like 100% in.
Yeah.
That does nothing for me one way or the other. And so that's all I was trying to say.
Fair enough.
There's nothing about this book I disliked. It just wasn't quite, other than maybe the pacing, like I said earlier.
So I would say that there is a slow burn, the romance is slow burn as well in Ocean's Echo, but it's also not the forefront, sort of the way it is in Winter's Orbit. And do you remember in Winter's Orbit, they mention, so I don't remember if they mentioned the system that they're in at all, but they do mention there are parts of the various other systems where like people can implant thoughts in your head. Like, you know, they mentioned that very quickly in Winter's Orbit. They're like, there's places where they can read your mind or implant thoughts in your head. That's what's explored in Ocean's Echo. Is that that's the kind of, you have people who, you have various mind readers. Somebody can read your mind and somebody else can implant thoughts in your mind. And there's 2 different kinds and you get an arrangement between those 2. Anyway, I've gotten us too far away.
That sounds more interesting.
But I feel like you would like that.
Yeah. I think what I wanted out of this book was more akin to Made of Stars by Jenna Boris, which was a romance set in a sci-fi world. There is a little bit of politics in there, but it's not really like the main thing. It's really the romance in a sci-fi world. And I didn't get that from this book. And so to give you like a good example of the way I view politics, I tried reading, A Memory of Empire.
Oh, I want to read that. A Memory Called Empire? A Memory Called Empire?
Yes, by Arkady
Martine.
There you go. I think I read like the first 2 pages and I was like, no, I'm out. I can't. It was just so like right away. Politics.
Right,
I'm like,
really
no,
heavy.
I'm good. I'm out. I don't want to deal with politics. I'm out. So that's how I feel about political stories usually. Moving on.
So we've talked about the romance and the sci-fi.
I think, we need to talk about the gender roles. I mean, especially since this is our Pride Month episode, like we need to talk about the gender roles in this book. Because there are, go ahead. Go.
Well, I'm just really excited to hop into this. So what was really interesting about this book is it reinforces that gender roles are a social construct. So like each society featured has their own way of communicating gender. And what I liked about it is, one, like you never assumed anybody's gender. Like you looked for the signals that were like agreed upon by society. So like if you identified as like a woman, you would wear flint. If you were a man, you would wear like a wood accessory. And then if you were non-binary, you wore like nothing or like glass beads or something like that. And they mentioned that like multiple times. And what I enjoyed was like every time that they interacted with somebody, they would mention like what item they were wearing. They're like, oh, the flint flickered on her ears and her earrings.
Or even like talking about how like the specific action of looking for it. Like
yes, exactly.
It was like I'm already like I'm scanning. Is it an earring? Is it in her hair? Is it on a ring? Is it on a bracelet? Like they're immediately scanning for that.
And if they don't see it, they're like there unless, corrected or, then catch it, which I appreciated. I was like, I feel like that's very, one, like kind of where we're going in the direction of like pronoun pins, or I don't know, like just asking people's pronouns by default, like this in this world, they've gone past that. It's just part of the culture. And then what was also interesting was like Kiem and Jainan, like in their worlds, the gender markers were different. Like in Jainan's world, and Thea, it was like headscarves, how they were wrapped. And like you hear in his head, like the misgendering that he's like, I think it's wrapped in the male way, and the like as a man, I think that's it. But he's just thinking it. And then at one point, I think he interacts with Jainan and he's like, oh, her. And he's like, oh no, it's him. And it's just like, okay, cool. Like, yeah, sounds good. They don't argue. They aren't like, I don't know, I perceive them this way. So I like that. It was like the queer normative, like, you just have to respect people.
Well, and like it hits you from the very beginning how much gender is not adhered to the same way. Because, I mean, the entire premise is an arranged marriage for politics between two men. Because it's not about making an heir. It's just about making that alliance. And then whether you can make a blood heir between you really doesn't fucking matter. So does not matter who's got what reproductive organs. Right. And then through that, like talking about the different ways that they procreate. Like it seems like procreation on Thea is natural human procreation, where on Iskat, it's like a bunch of your family members throw a bunch of genes into something and you put it in a blender and you get something out. And like, as he's talking about that, and Jainan is like horrified listening to him list out like, oh, I have this aunt and this uncle and this, that, and this. Because it's like, for them, it's a very taboo thing to talk about. And he's like,
I forgot about that. Yeah.
Like that, it's like it's a very like it's a moment that only happens one time, and it's kind of just used to sort of illustrate the cultural differences. Yeah. But like, it's just, gender norms are not a thing. Gender roles don't really matter. There's men and women and non-binary people at all levels of the government. They don't use gender defining terms for leadership. So it's an emperor, not an empress, even though she's a woman. Vale is a prince, not a princess, even though she's a woman. So they don't have gendered terms for any of these things.
Yeah, you guys already said it, but I like the idea that gender is performative, right? And wearing these different markers dictate which gender you are. But I didn't think it was explored enough. I still had questions about it, because I felt like even then you were boxing people into certain things, right? You have to wear Flint if you're not.
Right, you're still requiring people to display their gender.
Right. And realistically, I think all gender systems, regardless of what it is, would have people who do not conform to the system. Right. And I feel like that was not really, I think at some point in the book, and I forgot, I should have marked it, but there was somebody who was wearing, I believe, male markers, but they were saying there was she. Is that ringing a bell at all to either of you?
I think that was the headscarf thing.
Was it the headscarf? I forgot.
If I'm not mistaken, I think that was when it was somebody from Thea, and Kiem was like, oh, he, and Jainan was like, no, it's she. Like,
so was a takeaway that it was in the female fashion and he was misinterpreting it?
I believe so, yeah.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. I think it was just like
it. I thought it was in the male fashion, but they were actually female.
No, my understanding was that Kiem like misread because he wasn't familiar with the way that the scarf wrap designated gender.
I think that scene in particular was supposed to directly juxtapose an earlier scene where we'd had Jainan having a memory of Tam mocking him and calling him stupid for not being able to work through the very obvious to him gender markings because they're different on his planet. And so we had the earlier memory of Jainan not being able to immediately recognize things because they're brand new to him, and Tam basically calling him an idiot. And then later in the book when Kiem does the same thing and it's like a quick correction, oh, thanks, now I get it, like move on.
That's a good point. I didn't even think about that it was also like something for their relationship to juxtapose the two.
All right.
Yeah. So, well, and that's what I liked about it is I feel like, and you know, this is just me getting like in the future, but like gender will sort of always exist more than likely. I don't know when we will get to a point where gender will kind of cease to be like politicized or binary. In my lifetime, I hope that changes. But at the same time, it's like, it's still like, why is there even, like you said, like, why is it even still performed? Like, why is it that we have to do like male, female, non-binary? And that's such a good point. I don't know. I mean, again, it's all social constructs. Like, it's people needing to put things into boxes. It's just how the human brain works. And I think
Right.
for some folks, it's easier to be like, it's okay if a box doesn't exist. Whereas you have the type A people who go like, no, I need a box for everything. I need a label for everything. And like, you know, so that's kind of what I appreciated about this book, was that it is approachable or like palatable for people who need labels, but it still allows for like the non-conformity and like fluidness that other people might need, of like, I don't really care what gender is. If you would choose to not use a marker, it wasn't politicized. It wasn't judged. It wasn't like, oh, that person's non-binary, like, I hope they're okay. It was just like, okay, they, them pronouns. Cool. Yeah. Move on. Like, it was automatic, normative in this society for it to be okay to not have a marker. Which is where I think we can get to, like, in our world, not in a sci-fi universe, but it was super interesting. It was definitely like made me think a lot about like cultural differences. And I think that the author played that really well, where it was like, again, used as a way to juxtapose the relationship, but also these cultures and what makes them so different and why they were having miscommunication from the beginning. Like, they have two very different cultures. And so they're navigating that on top of all the political bullshit that's happening behind the scenes that they don't even know about. It's pretty cool. It was a really deep book. There were layers to it, which I appreciated. And I think played into the story. Like, I don't feel like gender was used in a performative way. Like, it was part of their relationship.
Nothing to add to that.
I love that you brought it up, said nothing, and just like let us talk. I appreciate that.
I'm just gonna drop this here.
Well, you kind of took it a different direction. I mean, I wanted it to be explored more. I had questions about, like, can people wear different ornaments every day? Like, today I'm wearing flint.
Right. Like, if you're gender fluid.
Yeah. Because that's the thing, like, putting people in one of three boxes: male, female, and non-binary. Yeah. But what if you're more fluid? What if you want to wear flint and wood? Like, what if you want to wear... I
kind of had that question too at one point. I don't remember. There was a moment where we meet a character and I thought maybe there was like, were they wearing both? And I think that was me just reading it really quickly, and I read it back and I was like, they weren't, but I wonder if they could. Like, does anyone ever change? Yeah, that's a good point. I don't know. I do think it could have been explored more. Is it mentioned in the other book? The Ocean's Echo?
I don't remember how they do gender in this book, or in Ocean's Echo. Because it's a different system, so it's a different, like, it would be a different system, quote unquote, of their gender display. But I can't honestly remember. I really feel like I need to give Ocean's Echo another shot. Now that I know that it's not what I think it is going into it, I feel like I need to give it another shot.
Yeah. I think you should. I think we should all read it next.
So if you're going to read it again, I'll read it with you.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll read it too. Because as much as I was like, there were things I didn't necessarily enjoy about the book, like, that's my own personal thing. And I'm like, well, this is an entirely new book. Maybe I'll like it even more. So I'll give it a chance.
Maybe we'll do a little buddy read.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. I can't imagine all the voice notes we're going to get from you. But I'll do it. I like it.
I'll tell you that, so my friend and I that do that we figured out, it used to be that you couldn't send voice notes longer than a minute. And then at some point we just accidentally figured out that got extended because we weren't getting stopped at a minute. And we never, like, we accidentally figured out that the new limit is 29 minutes and 59 seconds.
Oh, wow.
Because we hit that. And so she sent me one, and it was 29 minutes and 59 seconds long. And then she just sent me, well, I figured out the new limit.
That's a podcast.
That's what we call them. We call them our friend podcasts. Like, and we'll be like, all right, I have a new podcast for you. And it's like, here's what happened in my day. And we'll send each other like 15, 20, 30 minutes of notes at a time.
That's cute. That's cute.
I love that. Yeah.
Our little friend podcasts.
I have a friend I could do that with. That sounds cute. We used to do podcasts together, so that's perfect.
Anyway, for Winter's Orbit, I keep getting us off topic. My apologies.
You covered everything I wanted to talk about.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like this book is really good and people should read it. And I don't know, I don't think I have anything else to
think it's interesting the way that you respond to it being sci-fi, because one of the things that I talk about when you're like getting into sci-fi is I call this a really good starter sci-fi book. Because it's kind of light on the sci-fi. It's like, if you're just wanting to dip a toe into the genre of sci-fi, it's very romance heavy. It's a romance book with a sci-fi setting. And I'm like, this is a good one to kind of start to if you're gravitating from other genres.
I agree. I think, again, the problems were me. I was the problem. And I think like if I were reading it again, I just would like need to like get out of my head a little bit and just be like, that's not what was said on the page. Like we just need to take it at face value. But I am such a like investigative reader. Like I deep dive. So I'm like, I'm trying to guess the ending. I'm trying to guess what this world is like. Like I'm trying to like build things out for the author that by the end, I'm like, okay, why am I confused? Did I confuse myself? I did. But I still don't. I need to ask my friends because we're going to talk about this for an hour and I need to be able to talk about it. But instead, my friends just make fun of me. So, and I deserve it.
A little bit of both. You explain and
I deserve it. I bullied you at the beginning. So it's only a matter.
Yeah. Yeah. There.
If I can't take it, I can't dish it. So what would you rate it?
Well, it's a 5 from me.
Okay, Emma's still a 5, so nothing's changed.
No.
Rico, what would you rate it?
I would give it, oh God, I don't know. There's like what it was for me, but what I actually think it is.
That's a hard one. That's a hard line.
And that's it, like for me, I put it like in the 3.5, 3.75. Do I think it's maybe a better book than that? Probably.
I agree. That's my rating.
I'll say 3.75. I'm happy with that.
That's my rating. I'm like 3.75 because, again, I don't think it was for me, but like I would recommend this to like people who like sci-fi and who like romance. And I'd be like, this is a romance book with a sci-fi setting. Like it's a good time. It's a good world. If you like politics, you'll like this book. Like I think I would definitely like make known some of the things that Rico brought up. And yeah, because that's a good point. If you don't like politics, it's very heavy on the politics. And I did enjoy that, but I don't like military politics. And then I was like, oof, I don't like the military politics. But no, I think it's a really well-written book. And I think that I wish Ocean's Echo was a direct sequel to this book because I feel like there is stuff I would explore more.
Mm-hmm.
So that's disappointing. So that's good to know because I will read Ocean's Echo not thinking it's a direct sequel because that is very important.
I am curious because the author says, so the sequel is not about the high chain, but the author said that she's willing and wanting to explore the high chain in later books. I wonder if there's going to come a point where like they sort of come together as we get more into the high chain, or if they're always just going to be like just different stories in this overarching massive universe.
That's a good question. All right. Well, we gave our ratings. On Goodreads, it's rated 4.01 out of over 20K ratings.
That's not bad.
Yeah.
I feel like with our averages, that seems about right.
Yeah.
So, you guys heard it here, listeners. They will read Ocean's Echo. I'm going to hold us to that. I see your face, Bella. Maybe. We're already equivocating. All right.
Wow.
I see. Maybe what?
It was a nice thing, Emma. Do you want to maybe listen first?
No. I would like to jump to conclusions.
Obviously not.
No one's on a podcast to listen, all right? You're on a podcast to talk.
Not podcast host, that's for sure. I was going to say, maybe we'll do a bonus episode of Ocean's Echo.
Of just our voice memos.
Just a voice memo.
Just the voice memos, that's it.
We'll release our unedited, raw voice memos to each other. Rico will just cut it like a podcast. For those interested, you just have to email us. We'll never respond. But yeah, no, I mean, I think it could be worth, talking about in the future. But at the very least, I'm going to read it and we're going to talk about it. So I'm excited.
Oh, yay.
But yeah. So what are we reading next?
The next thing I'm going to read.
Rico looked so like you were like overwhelmed by that question.
It's a really big question. There's just so many books out there.
The spreadsheet.
Yeah. The next thing I'm going to read is This Is How You Lose the Time War.
Yes.
By Amal El-Motar and Max Gladstone, which, if that title might sound familiar to you and you are on Twitter, that might be because it is of the viral Bigolas Dickolas fame.
I love that so much. Oh my God, Bella, do you not know about this?
This sounds so familiar, but for me and our listeners, please refresh.
Would you like to explain it, Rico?
I can try. You might be better, but I could try. Please correct me. There is an account on Twitter, person, username, I believe was Bigolas Dickolas Wolfwood.
Yes, their name was Bigolas Dickolas Wolfwood. because they were an anime stan. They were a stan for an anime called, oh my god, Trigun. They're a Trigun stan. They're a Trigun stan account. That was the entire thing. So they're called Bigolas Dickolas Wolfwood.
Yeah. And they tweeted, just apropos of nothing, basically along the lines of, you need to read, this is how you lose the Time War. Like, I love this book, just go out there and read it. And that shit blew up. That was this huge thing all over Twitter, social media.
It really, this guy had I don't know, maybe 15,000 followers, I think. And he just puts out a tweet, and it's the cover of the book as a photo, and it just says, read this book, don't look up anything about it, do not look at the synopsis, it's like 200 pages, it's maybe 4 hours on Audible, just do it. And then in a follow-up tweet, he was like, it was very much that kind of stan culture, like, grabs you by the throat, you will read this book. Like, he was very adamant about it. There was no link, there was no, like, go buy this here anywhere. And for whatever reason, like, that tweet blew up, and it had, like, millions of impressions, and it had hundreds of thousands of likes and retweets. And for like a week, and it was this book that, like, had been, like, This Is How You Lose the Time War. It was widely beloved within the fantasy genre, or within the sci-fi genre. Like, it was an award winner. I believe it won a Hugo Award. It was very, very popular within its own niche. But it had kind of, I think what one of the authors said about it was that it had accomplished their dream of hitting the mid-list. And mid-list is like, you're not a bestseller, but people have read your book. And so they're like, accomplished our dream of hitting the mid-list. And suddenly it was the number 3 book on Amazon, period. Not number 3 sci-fi, not number 3 queer book, the number 3 book. The only things ahead of it were Prince Harry's memoir, a parenting book, and like a Pulitzer Prize winning nonfiction, like whatever, like, and that was the only thing ahead of it. And it just, for whatever reason, there was like a week or two where we were just all talking about This Is How You Lose the Time War, this very, very weird little epistolary queer sci-fi book. And like, you had bookstores getting in on it. So like, bookstores were putting out little stickers that said like recommended by Bigolas Dickolas, and like putting it on like a recommendation sticker, and like writing little notes. Like, it was so
authors
funny.
were doing like videos of like how to summon their own Bigolas Dickolas.
Right? Yeah.
It was oh my god. Social media is a weird place, but anyhow,
it is. Yeah, it was so much fun.
That's one of the things that I'm like, this is when I like social media. Like, we're blowing up good things for like, small book people. I don't know. It's great.
I'm very excited to hear what you think about it. It's so weird. It's so weird, and I love it so much.
I probably like it. I like weird stuff. And so that's the next thing I'm reading, because one of the local bookstores here in Sacramento area, it's in Elk Grove, California. It's called A Seat at the Table Books. They have a regular sci-fi fantasy book club, and that is the next pick for that club. So that is why I'm reading it.
Did you join their book club?
Yeah, I've gone to a few of their meetings. Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah, it's nice. Anyhow, so that's what I'm reading. Emma, what are you reading next?
I just started today. I started Darkwater Daughter by H.M. Long. I'm very excited for this. I'm in like a pirate phase right now in my reading. I've been reading lots of pirates, and I have more pirates on the horizon.
Support that.
But H.M. Long is an author that I'm mutuals with on like TikTok and Instagram. And so she reached out to me and she was like, hello, can I send you this? Would you like this? And I'm like, absolutely the fuck I would. So this comes out July 11th. I'm 57 pages in, and it's immediately so good.
Ooh.
It's so good. You've got a disgraced naval officer who like really wants to earn his reputation back. You've got a weather witch who is running away from the gallows. There's a lot going on in this. And you know what it is? She says she keeps like for the male character, the naval officer. Do you remember in Pirates of the Caribbean, Norrington?
Yes.
The like very stuffy guy. And then in like the second or third movie, he is totally disgraced and gets all scruffy and dirty and gross, and suddenly he's really hot.
Yes.
That's this guy.
That's actually what I pictured. So that's amazing.
So Darkwater Daughter by H.M. Long. I believe this comes out July 11th. July 11th. This is already so good. I'm 50 pages into like a 400-page book, and I don't want to put it down.
Awesome.
That's how you know it's going to be good.
I want to compare pirate books with you.
Oh, we'll make a list. We'll make a spreadsheet.
Already got one. There's actually a upcoming After Dark eligible pirate book that I really want to read.
Oh.
But it's not out until later this year.
Did we?
All right.
Who's picking our next After Dark? Is it Emma?
Well, we'll get to that in a second.
Well, what are you reading next, Bella?
I am reading, I just got notified that I can read Crescent City, book 1 by Sarah J. Maas. So I'm excited for that, because I haven't gotten, it was on hold at the library, and I finally got it to my phone.
I want updates.
I will let you know. Maybe I'll send you voice memos on Discord. But I'm reading Painted Devils, and I know I said I was reading that at the beginning, but I'm so excited because I loved Little Thieves, and I'm listening to the audiobook, and it's so good. It's the same narrator, and it's so good. So I'm really excited. It's like a completely different vibe, but it's still the same heart.
Yeah.
And so I'm loving it already. I've listened to it pretty much like every night, and it's hard to like go to sleep because I'm like, I really want to keep reading this book. So
it's so
I have
good.
I have my sleep timer on 45 minutes for the book, which normally I'm at 30 minutes because I was like, I need to read it more. It's so good. So yeah, I don't know. I'm trying to like keep things open, keep things, flexible for summer. I feel like I don't want to overcommit to books because I'm hoping that I'll be more active once I get my little sling off next week. So we'll start there. So ask me next time, because I feel like sometimes I'm just blowing through books. I've got some NetGalleys I got to get through too. So
oh my God, me too.
But I couldn't even tell you what they are right now. There's so many.
Yeah, I got one I need to read, and I'm not looking forward to it.
I have like we'll talk about it offline.
I think I have like 10 that I need to read.
Oh my God.
I requested a bunch because I thought they'd all reject me, and then they all said yes.
Rookie.
So, well, they all used to say no to me, and then now they're saying yes. So I don't know.
I try really hard to keep my feedback ratio at 100%.
Me too.
And I think I have like 3 right now, and I'm like, this is too many. I have too many open.
Like I said, they all said yes.
I think I'm at like 41%.
Oh my God.
Maybe 48%. And they still approve me for things.
I think I'm lower than that at this point, but I'm going to get through these. So
you guys are making me feel better.
Yeah. Feel a lot better. I'm about to go to like the lake for the 4th for like an entire week. So I'm like, I will be reading a lot, trust me, because I can't jet ski or like swim or anything. So I'll get through some books. Yeah.
Nice.
That Kindle's going to be glued to me.
Nice. Well, Bella, you asked what the next After Dark book was and whose pick it was. We announced it on the last After Dark episode, so if you've listened to it, you already know. But we are reading That Time I Got Drunk and Saved a Demon by Kimberly Lemming, which was Emma's pick.
Yes, it is.
We're reading that next month. That's going to be your episode for next month. So
I'm so excited.
Oh my gosh. Well, stay tuned for After Dark and let us know your thoughts on this book or any other book that you're listening to based on our recommendation. On social media, you can find us on Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok at shitwe'veread. .com at shitwe'veread. I swear I know how to internet. Emma, what are your socials? You're not science
and you're not internet.
Emma, you want to plug your socials?
You can find me at EmmaSkies on TikTok. You can find me at BiblioSkies on Instagram. And I talk about books and shit.
Emma knows how to internet, you guys.
Yeah.
She's great. Follow her.
Going great.
She does the internet right, so.
All right.
Oh
and on that note, happy Pride, everybody. Thank you for listening in. Read queer books all year round and pay attention to what's happening in your governments, because anti-trans bills are happening everywhere. And to the homophobes out there, not us, because we're not homophobic, have a terrible month. And feel free to disappear off the face of the planet. Bye.
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 Shit We've Read is hosted by Laura Benson, Jason Rico, and Bella Romero, with music by Joshua Chilton and editing by Jason Rico.
To join the discussion on this and all other books we've read, find us at Shit We've Read on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and TikTok.
For more information about us or to request transcripts, please visit shitwe'veread.com.
This podcast is part of the Buy Low Network. Visit buylowNetwork.com for more great geeky podcasts.
Thanks so much for listening.